Donald Trump's disastrous, unlawful, and catastrophic war in Iran continues to spiral out of control. It's Monday, so it's market manipulation day, but Donald Trump's ability to manipulate the market by claiming he's been involved in negotiations with Iran just ain't really working anymore. In fact, the Iranian leadership is now saying, don't listen to him, do the opposite of what he says. He's just going to try and manipulate the market. And they in Iran continue to mock Donald Trump and his regime. Donald Trump again started pretending that he was having all of these negotiations with Iran. He said that they agreed to most of the 15 points in the 15-point negotiation plan. Then Iran quickly countered and said, we're not agreeing to any of these terms. We put forward our non-negotiables a while ago. We're not even talking to the intermediary that the Trump regime is trying to use. They want to use Pakistan. And yes, Donald Trump rushed to Pakistan to convey a message to Iran, which was delivered. But Iran said, we've made our position very clear publicly of what would be required to end this war. There has to be full reparations. We get to control the Strait of Hormuz. We never will talk about ever disarming when it comes to ballistic missiles and Shahid drones. We need to make sure that there are firm security guarantees for Iran, for Hezbollah, for the Shiite militias in Iraq, for the Houthis, and other proxy groups of Iran. And we want American and Israeli military bases out of the region. Unless those threshold matters are agreed to, we have no interest in even having a negotiation to begin with. And we're not engaging at all with Trump's 15-point framework. It's a fiction. We're not talking about it. And then Iran continued to retaliate from the strikes against it by the United States and Israel by targeting areas in Iraq, in Erbil, by targeting the UAE, by hitting a oil depot in Haifa in Israel and other areas in Israel, by hitting Bahrain and Kuwait, a desalination and electrical facility in Kuwait. And so Iran, still has a large portion of its ballistic missiles and Shahid drones intact. And the war continues. So all of Donald Trump's claims, hey, we're right about to end it. We're about to, things are about to get better. No one believes him anymore. He's a total and utter liar. We're hearing from a lot of world leaders right now, like the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who says that the effect of the Iran war on Germany and Europe will be as serious as the COVID-19 pandemic if it expands. And obviously it is expanding. Italy's defense minister went on the record to say, I'm forced to know things about what could happen in the coming week and the effects it will have on the economy and our daily lives that no longer allow me to sleep. Similarly, South Korea's president said today, the world is in turmoil over the energy crisis. The situation is so serious that it has even kept me up at night. The immediate problem is grave enough, but the outlook ahead seems even more unstable. The situation is worse than expected. We'll talk a lot about what's going on in Trump's disastrous and catastrophic war in Iran. We'll also talk about the fact that in the United States, while people are psychologically tortured living paycheck to paycheck, if they're lucky enough to get a paycheck in the first place, while inflation right now is surging, by all accounts, we're already in a recession and perhaps a great recession or something even worse. We're definitely in a jobs recession. No jobs are being created. People can't afford things. People can't afford their rent. We have some of the highest credit card delinquency rates, student loan delinquency rates, mortgage foreclosures in many, many, many years. We have the lowest consumer confidence. While all of that's going on here, Congress has decided to go and take a recess. MAGA Republicans control the Senate and the House. They dipped out. By the way, we see lots of photos of them right now on vacation. I think we saw Lindsey Graham in Disney World with like a bubble wand and like partying it up over there. Weird, while the American people are struggling here. And before they left, the Senate was able to, on a bipartisan basis, pass a funding bill that would fund TSA, whereas in the House of Representatives, rather than just pass an identical bill and then put it on the president's desk, Donald Trump told the MAGA members in the House to vote against it unless more money was given to ICE and Border Patrol, even though they've already been funded hundreds of billions of dollars. So in the House, they basically blocked what was going on in the Senate. But in any event, Donald Trump signed an executive order saying that he would be funding TSA out of other funds that were appropriated for other reasons, which shows that if Donald Trump really wanted to in the first place, he could have funded TSA agents all of this time, but he was using them as pawns to make them suffer as part of some cruel and unusual game for the worst negotiator in history. And that's really what we need to be clear as well, that he's quite literally the worst leader, the worst negotiator, a destroyer and not a builder, a lifelong loser. It's why he's lost his whole life. He's never been a winner. He's just been a con artist his entire life. He's bankrupted this business, that business, and he's systematically doing it to the United States economy and to our alliances and to all of the things that made the United States strong post World War II. One other point that we'll cover in this episode as well. Vladimir Putin sent a ship to Cuba loaded with a massive amount of oil, easily sailing through this so-called Trump blockade. You know how Trump has put this blockade and embargo on Cuba and all these other countries that wanted to deliver oil and supplies to Cuba, like Mexico and Colombia. They were interdicted, and Donald Trump's ships, or the United States ships, said, get out or else we're going to go after you. And Donald Trump signed an executive order on January 30th saying anybody who gives oil to Cuba is going to face severe tariffs and severe sanctions. It was Executive Order 14380. Well, after Donald Trump removed oil sanctions against Russia, where they're making billions of dollars a day, as Russian Duma leaders, like the Russian Senate, their top leaders were in Washington, D.C. last week, taking tours of our Capitol building, meeting with the State Department and meeting with MAGA Republican Congress members, as we've learned more and more details about Russia supplying Iran with military equipment, weapons, and the surveillance and information about where to target, including targeting the United States air bases. 13 of them have now been evacuated by the United States military. A United States military base in Saudi Arabia was attacked by Iran using likely Russian equipment and Russian surveillance. A Boeing E-3 Century AWACS, the early warning aircraft, which was like the crown jewel of our Air Force, was destroyed. A bunch of the other KC-135 Stratotankers were destroyed. But we're rewarding Russia for helping Iran kill Americans and target the American equipment. They were brought over to have meetings with the State Department. More concessions were given. And then when Putin sailed his big ship, his big frigate, over to Cuba loaded with all of this oil, Donald Trump's like, all right, you can come through. You could come to Cuba. And look, probably in addition to oil, I mean, just knowing what likely goes down in situations, my guess would be Russia's probably providing weapons and Shahid drones and other things to Cuba to protect itself. And I just think back to like the Cuban Missile Crisis and all of these things like in our history, or like America working with allies. Like right now, Russia has a firm presence in Cuba. We've removed the sanctions against Russia while Russia's out there helping Iran kill Americans and target American military equipment during the war. The Russian Duma members are meeting with MAGA Republican Congress members in the State Department. We're going to talk about all of this and more. I know it was a long freaking introduction, but if I didn't get through all of those points, I would regret it. So now I have no regrets.
All good. It's there's a lot going on, so you got to get it all out. It's good to be and good to be here, Jordan. I'm glad you have no regrets. That's always good. You got to start off the show with a clean slate, no regrets whatsoever. Donald Trump should have a lot of regrets because every decision that he has made has been a complete and utter disaster. And I'm sick of people pretending like it's anything other than that. You know, I saw a tweet earlier from Richard Stengel, the former Undersecretary of State in the Obama administration. And what he said really resonated with me. He said, Trump is repeating every foreign and domestic policy mistake the United States has made over the last 5 decades, but he is doing it with a gracelessness, cluelessness, and corruption that has no precedent. And I think that sums it up perfectly right now. And it's one of those situations where Donald Trump's lies are just not working the same way that they used to work. And I've talked about this too, months and months ago, before this was even a thing, before this war with Iran was even a thing. Why? Because Donald Trump continuously falls into the same patterns, whether he's scamming people in his businesses or whether he's doing anything in the government. He does the same thing every single time. And so it wasn't exactly difficult to predict that he would spiral out like this. But eventually, as always, the truth catches up to you, just like any Ponzi schemer out there. Eventually, you run out of money and you get caught. Donald Trump right now is at that moment in his presidency, and that's why he is losing even his own MAGA base right now. Even people who are supporters of Trump are furious about the situation. Certainly not saying all of them, but a sizable enough portion of them that he should be very worried about his political prospects, the entire Republican Party, and his future as we head into the midterms. Now, as we see all of this, you're seeing Donald Trump just be like the world's worst negotiator imaginable, almost like negotiating with himself. One thing that I've noticed in seeing kind of Marco Rubio out there and Besant on the talk shows and things like that is their objectives of the war and their goals of the war continuously decrease. Remember, like the first week, guys, their first week, they were like, Iran needs to unconditionally surrender, give up everything, give up your nukes, you're done, unconditional surrender, we will accept nothing less. And Iran like just hasn't even been like responding to these people. They've just been like trolling them. And, Donald Trump says, we won, which is the weakest negotiating position you could ever come from, just like making up negotiations. Then, so they go from that and then they go to like, okay, well, you keep that stuff, but like we won't leave until you get rid of your missiles. Okay. All right. Iran's like, no, we're not going to do that. We actually need them more than ever now because we know that you're like invading us. And now we've come to a point where I forget if it was the Washington Post or the New York Times, but what major publication, it might have been even Wall Street Journal, described the main objective of the war as opening the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before the war started. That was a problem caused by Donald Trump. And even if it were to be fully opened tomorrow, the damage caused by its closure and the oil shortage across the world right now is already damaging enough to be absolutely devastating on the global economy and wreak havoc on the global economy. I know I went long there as well, so I'm going to pass it off to Jordy, but we certainly have a whole lot to talk about. Jordy, what's the latest?
It's the perfect case of the arsonist lighting the fire and then trying to put the fire out and then trying to demand praise for putting the fire out that they start. I mean, it's awful. What's up, brothers? What's up, Meidas? This isn't a show about any of us here saying like, I told you so, right? Like that would be pointless and just a stupid show. It's a show about arming the viewers and listeners with the facts, the data, the receipts, make the informed decisions on your own. We, of course, have opinions and we very clearly state those opinions. So when we're seeing the complete mishandling of the ongoing war in Iran and just seeing just the endless chaos, right? It's very easy for me to sit here and just constantly say it's going to get worse. And that's not me shooting from the hip or making some bold prediction. And I genuinely wish that this wasn't the case. It's just the decision that I've come to by listening, watching, reading the statements from Trump, the Trump regime, our former allies, and everyone in between, from seeing the chaos with my own eyes and the disturbing reports about us escalating our ground efforts in the coming days and sending our troops there to get injured and die even more. And the claims that are coming out of Trump is that we've already won. If we've already won, why are we escalating the war? Why are we sending more troops? Why aren't our troops coming home? So as I sit here today, I can again very clearly say it's going to get worse. MAGA's America First movement, America First, it's a complete sham, a complete farce. And our troops and our economy, they're the first ones paying the price here. The war in Iran is going to be hitting home so much harder than we could even really fully imagine. And it already is, right? Like, have you guys been to the gas pump recently? And I refuse to sit here and not speak out against it. Brothers, I know you guys are actively speaking out against it. And I implore our entire audience to continue to take the information that we share in tonight's episode, share it with anyone and everyone that you can, and just expose the complete and utter buffoonery that the Trump regime is putting before us right now. This is not
Jordy,
business
I
as usual.
think
It's
the
not
COVID
normal.
analogy that we made on the show weeks ago, if not months ago at this point, I think has held up incredibly well, because this right now, the moment we are in reminds me of that early COVID moment when we were trying to tell people, like, this thing is going to get bad. I know Trump's saying 15 cases down to 0. I know that all these news agencies like running with those headlines. Well, Donald Trump says it's going to be gone by Easter, folks. And we were like, why the hell are they doing that? And I remember this vividly because this was how we started MeidasTouch, in this level of fear over the media saying one thing and us going, that's just not true. Okay. Someone needs to speak out about this crap. And now we're seeing history repeat, and we're seeing history repeat in the same way in terms that Donald Trump cannot lie his way around a global pandemic, and he cannot lie his way around the realities of war.
And that's why, though, I think we're very well equipped to report on this, having now accumulated 6 years of experience and doing certain things good, doing certain things that required improvement, doing certain things that required lots of improvement, but working on this every day to bring you the truth, to bring you the evidence. And so when a crisis of this scale and magnitude hits, it's like muscle memory in our ability to kind of know, okay, here's how we need to present what's going on. And what you need to do to present the whole side of the story is, sure, I'm going to show the clips of what Donald Trump is saying, what Karoline Leavitt saying, and what the Trump regime is saying. But I'm also going to show you what they're saying in Europe. I'm also going to show you what the leaders are saying in Asia. I'm going to show you what they're saying in Mexico and Central America and South America. I'm going to show you what leaders are saying in Africa. I'm going to show you what they're saying in Ukraine, Europe. I'm going to show you what Putin is saying and what the statements are coming out of Russia. And I'm going to show you the statements that are being made in Iran and what their leadership is saying. Because, you know, the whole way that Trump and his regime and MAGA basically portray Iran is that they have no leaders. They've been decimated and obliterated. It's also portrayed through like a very racist lens that like, we're not dealing with smart people, and we're dealing with, I think Marco Rubio said, these are lunatics, these are crazy people, these are maniacs. And so it almost elicits an image of these like irrational, and I think the way they want to try to portray it, because it's portrayed in like a racist way, almost kind of animalistic, not thinking through strategy, when the reality is that couldn't be further from the truth. And when you see the statements being made by Iran, they have a clear plan, clear goals. They have a parliament that's functioning, that's debating issues and discussing things. They have this decentralized mosaic model of leadership where they have the kind of spiritual guidance and ultimately their supreme leader at the Ayatollah level, who's ultimately responsible for making all of the main decisions. Then they've got their Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Then they've got their kind of state police force and kind of local domestic enforcers. And then they're decentralized in ways where the whole command structure has all of its orders and all of its succession plans already in place. So when certain things happen, the reactions in a very systematized way are already pre-planned, whereas the Trump regime is reacting to Donald Trump's kind of caveman-like emotions and malignant narcissism. And that's one of the things we're playing out. Clearly, the American weaponry was the best in the world and is stronger, and we have bigger bombs and bigger missiles and all of these things. But these Iranian Shahid drones, these FPV drone swarms, the ballistic missiles, their cluster munitions, their ability to use cluster munitions in deceptive ways, both using actual kind of cluster munitions, but then also using kind of dummy firework style bombs to draw out the very expensive THAAD Patriot interceptor missiles, which cost millions of dollars to launch. It's a very actually detailed strategy that's being portrayed by Iran. I mean, you have this guy, MB Ghalibaf, who Donald Trump claims he's directly negotiating with. Ghalibaf is basically the speaker of their parliament, the leader of their parliament. He's denied over and over again, we're not speaking with Trump, we're not speaking with the US, all of this is a lie. And he's out there saying, let me show you how America's manipulating their markets right now. He goes, heads up, pre-market so-called news or truth is often just a setup for profit taking. Basically, it's a reverse indicator. Do the opposite. If they pump it, short it. If they dump it, go long. See something tomorrow, you know the drill. And this was before Donald Trump tried to do just that and manipulate the market today. This guy, MB Ghalibaf, also posted 6D chess in response to somebody posting. So right now, Donald Trump's objective is to take control of the Strait of Hormuz or have Iran give up control, which Iran was not controlling before the war started. Well played, Donald. Well played. And MB Ghalibaf and all of the leadership in Iran understand that this is a war of attrition, and they're acutely aware of the American markets and the world global markets right now and the chokehold that they've created. Now, they've got to balance certain interests because they're allied with China, they're allied with Russia, they're allied now with India and Pakistan and some other countries as well. So they need to balance, of course, this global chokehold that they had and also making sure the energy crisis doesn't hurt their allies. So they're working with China. 2 ships, for example, from China got through the Strait of Hormuz today, to which Iran mocked Donald Trump and the regime as well. And they said, this is like an official bulletin from Iran's press department. Like, you know how Donald Trump has Karoline Leavitt? This IRIB said the following: Iran has responded positively to Donald Trump's threats, and we have reopened the Strait of Hormuz, though only for 2 Chinese oil tankers. Like, they're mocking him at such a, at such a stinging level, right? Then Donald Trump tries to take credit and say, they've released 20 additional ships because I've asked them to. And it's like, the ships that are being sent to Pakistan, that has nothing to do with the United States at all. And when you take credit for things that are not yours, Iran also recognizes how weak you look and how kind of pathetic it is. And they go, wow, we've got him. Like, these people don't know what the hell they're doing. They're panicking. And Iran says, okay, we can keep the pressure up. And we know that the longer we continue this, the more it hurts the United States economy. And the more pain the U.S. will feel. I mean, if you look at the Treasury note yields, whether it's the 2, the 10, the 20, or the 30, they're all surging to levels that are unsustainable. The price of oil right now, Brent crude, $114 per barrel. By the way, I want to live in a world where I don't have to know the distinction between Brent crude and WTI. Like in the Trump regime, you have to like learn things that like you just took for granted, that there were experts who would just handle these things. But like if you look at the price of oil generally, it's like $114 per barrel, which could be headed to $200 per barrel in no time, especially as the Houthis have now entered the war. And they've said, look, if things escalate, we're going to shut down the strait in the Red Sea, which would lead to basically both major kind of points where oil is shipped being shut down, which would be absolutely devastating. And then Karoline Leavitt held a press conference today, like a dueling press conference, right? She held the press conference at the White House while the version of her for Iran, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson, he held a press conference. And he responded to questions about, Donald Trump saying that we've been involved in these conversations and that we're involved with a much more kind of reasonable regime. This is Donald Trump's post in the morning. The United States of America is in serious discussion with a new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran. Great progress has been made, but if for any reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately, quote, open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electronic generating plants, oil wells in Karg Island, and possibly all desalination plants, which we have purposefully not yet, quote, touched. This will be in retribution for our many soldiers and others the Iran has butchered and killed over the regime's 47-year reign of terror. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So Iran's embassy responds, let me correct you. The brave soldiers of Iran are hitting seriously the idiot, unreasonable regime of the USA. And then Iran's spokesperson held a press conference, and let's play what he said moments ago.
We have had no direct negotiations with America so far. Since the last round of negotiations until now, the US demands have been very excessive, unrealistic, and illogical. The meetings that Pakistan has with neighboring countries are, well, a framework they themselves have established. We have not participated in this framework. Can it be allowed that Iran and Iranians be in a position of confronting the illegal aggression of America and the Zionist regime to use the available capabilities on the soil of regional countries while our armed forces remain silent? The duty of every authority demands that it respond to such cases with...
Now, Brett and Jordy, I want to get your take on that. But for those listening on audio, he's speaking inside a room that frankly looks more advanced and more comfortable than the press room that's at the White House. So,
and that was a translator speaking. He doesn't have a British accent.
Yeah, Chris, it was a translator speaking. However, though, I to paint a picture for audio listeners, he's in a big, nice-looking kind of room. There are people, reporters who are taking notes. He's not like hiding in a cave or like running away from anything. Like they're there in a room like that. And as he was there, Iran's parliament was deliberating a bill to impose fees on the Strait of Hormuz, and they took a vote. That was a foregone conclusion what the outcome was going to be, but they took a vote to approve a bill to levy fees on the Strait of Hormuz transit for about $2 million for any ship that passes. It imposes a toll system in rails. It bans the passage of U.S. and Israeli vessels through the strait, asserts Iran's sovereignty over the strategic waterway, bans any countries that imposes unilateral sanctions against Iran. And guess who's working with them? Oman. Oman is slated to help shape the legal framework. Remember Oman, the foreign minister who Trump picked as the mediator between the discussions between Trump and Iran? Trump picked this guy in Oman who said that they reached a deal in principle. And then that night, Donald Trump and Netanyahu bombed Iran after they said there was a deal. That's who's working with Iran to build a legal framework for Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz. So I just want, to me, that knowledge is important. You may not like that knowledge. That may bug you. That's the truth about what's happening right now, though.
For sure. And it's why anytime I see these news headlines out there are just parroting what Donald Trump says, like when he said yesterday that, they gave me a tribute, a beautiful gift. He keeps saying this like every week now. It's like we're on repeat. It's Groundhog Day, right? Donald Trump, they gave me a tribute, a beautiful tribute. They gave me a tribute. It's, 20 ships passing. Immediately we were like, is he talking about the 20 Pakistani flagged ships that have nothing to do with the United States? And he was, but that didn't stop some publications. And by the way, I don't want to trash all their report. They've done a lot of incredible reporting, but I saw the New York Times run a headline on this that said something like, Trump says, he got 20 ships through the Strait of Hormuz. I'm like, why don't be a stenographer? Like, is that true or is it not true? As of now, that's certainly not true. You can't look at the situation right now and not see that obviously the United States of America, Trump has gotten rid of the Ayatollah and some high up people in the Iranian regime. But it's tough to look at the situation right now and not see that Iran has actually kind of become more essential to the region and has kind of expanded as a world power as a result of Donald Trump's actions here, which is the complete opposite reaction you want when you're trying to destroy a regime. I mean, you could even look at just like the data like this. Iran is now earning, this is from The Economist, Iran is now earning nearly twice as much from oil sales each day as it did before American and Israeli bombs started falling on February 28th. It may be pummeled on the battlefield, but the regime is winning the energy war. And they understand that this energy war and the war of this economic battle that's playing right now is perhaps the single most important war that they could wage. It's asymmetrical warfare in that way because they have control over all these resources and all of these pathways for the resources to go through that affect not just the United States, but affect countries all over the world. And we're seeing now countries overseas are limiting the amount of gas and oil that people could use. Prices are skyrocketing everywhere. And all of this flows through the supply chain, goes through the wholesalers, through the supply chain, and it ends up in everyday goods that we all pay. It's frankly probably the top driver in general of inflation. And we already saw inflation ticking up in the last inflation report, which was before the war began. Now we're going to see in the future this number just begin to go up and skyrocket. People are seeing it in their mortgage rates, which are now I think like nearing like 7%. Everything goes up when energy prices go up. And Donald Trump has caused this entirely by himself. One of the things that I think I noticed in the things that he's saying, reading kind of between the lines of these deranged posts. For example, I'll pull up the post that Ben read this morning. I think when Donald Trump is bullshitting about, there's a new regime, a more reasonable regime. First off, him and the people in the administration, they keep saying opposite things. So while Donald Trump was saying there's a new, more reasonable regime in charge, you had Marco Rubio on TV going, these people are psychopathic. These people are insane. You can't deal with these people. And even getting pressed by the reporters on that. Wait, but did you know that Donald Trump just tweeted that these people are reasonable and that things are going great? They're not on the same page because Trump's just lying. They're all just lying about everything. But I think in Trump's lies, reading between the lines, this is my opinion, I think that Donald Trump is hedging the entire thing because I think he understands, even if he doesn't want to admit it, that this is not going well. And so Trump wants to try to figure out any way that he could kind of claim a victory throughout all of this. And so that's why you see regime change. Oh, we already did regime change. Mission accomplished, right? Oh, we blew their shit up. We destroyed them. They're completely obliterated. You didn't. But it almost seems like he wants to kind of plant all these little seeds. So at some point when things are getting really bad, he could be like, oh, we did it. Done, mission accomplished, have another George Bush moment, which he's had basically every single day at this point.
We've set out to do everything that we've already planned on doing. What are you talking about? This is a massive success. I mean, our leaders couldn't be more ill-equipped to guide us through this. Like, name me one person in the regime, in the Trump regime, that you actually take seriously enough who hasn't totally and utterly debased themselves that you'd be like, oh, okay, I'm confident that they'll guide us through this. When your ego meets reality, you get catastrophe, right? That's what we're seeing, especially with Trump. These oil prices are skyrocketing. Our troops are dying. I mean, it's pure chaos. And now, to our earlier point, what are they saying? The goal of this entire war is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz? I mean, what do we even do? Ben, what are we even doing here? And my question to you is, do you see any light here at the end of this tunnel? Because for me, I just keep seeing this getting worse.
No, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And in fact, there's no comp. Brett, you mentioned, like George W. Bush or like the neocons. Like, I hear that, but this is not even like, there's no comp to it. Like, those people were still following like a plan, a bad plan, a dastardly plan, but they were following a plan, not the whims of a psychotic, malignant, narcissistic maniac who's on Air Force One showing photos of Corinthian columns and talking about building underground bunkers and then giving a speech at a Miami financial conference and telling the people in the audience they could ask him about sex because he's open to be answering any questions, or like telling reporters from state regime media like Dana Perino, remember when we had lunch together? Are you just as beautiful as the day I met? Like, we're so dealing with an actual maniac. Like, we're not dealing with a neocon. That's like, on the scale of like acidic to basic, and let's just say neocons are the most, I don't know, it's not a good example, but on a scale of 1 to 10, if like, like a neocon is like a 10, we're on a different scale. Okay. Donald Trump is a nuclear con. It's a con artist. It's a con job, right? The whole thing is one Fugazi, all of it. And what Iran is saying is they recognize that this guy's all bluff, all bark. He's now tapping into, basically the way he had Daddy bail him out his entire life when his casinos were going bankrupt, but then Daddy couldn't even bankrupt him, right? The taxpayers and the American people Donald Trump goes to destroy our lives. I need $200 billion. Let's take the special forces. Behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, there is massive panic taking place. And my headlines highlighting that are not hyperbolic. We can see it in the actual behavior and the franticness that is all over the place right here. And when we come back from our first break, one of the things I want to talk about, though, is all of Donald Trump's emolument clause violations, these quid pro quos, these pay for play that has made him kind of personally indebted to these Middle East nations because they've invested in him personally and his businesses. We're learning more and more that basically his benefactors, right? Like the people who pay him and his family, because that's what the Middle East thought they were. They're coming back and they're saying, you ain't effing leaving. You ain't effing leaving until you put your troops on the ground. What the F do you think you're doing? You think you're just, sorry, we will bankrupt the F out of you. You better believe behind the scenes that whether it's MBS, whether it's the leader of UAE, whether it's the Emir of Qatar, the Al Thani, they're behind the scenes saying, what, you think we gave you that plane for the hell of it? No, you are putting your American troops on the effing ground. You ain't leaving. We will expose it all. And so because he's compromised, that now has real ramifications on our troops and on our country. We'll talk about that and more when we come back from our first quick break. That was a long segment, but an important long segment. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. And if you can, subscribe to Scott McFarlane's YouTube channel, already on its way to 150,000 subscribers in a very short period of time. So subscribe to McFarlane. Go to @ScottMcFarlane News on YouTube. Tell him Ben sent you. Say Ben says hi. Not creepy at all. He likes when you say Ben says hi from all that I hear. And make sure you subscribe there. Help it get to 150,000 subs. Subscribe to the MeidasTouch on audio. We will be right back after our first quick break.
Whether you're planting now or later, Fast Growing Trees has everything you need to make your dream yard a reality, starting with the best quality and selection of plants delivered to your door. Fast Growing Trees is America's largest online nursery with over 1,600 unique trees and plants. They've been delivering trees and plants since 2005, so they know how to do it right. They have all the plants that your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. Order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days without ever leaving home. Their Live and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy, ready to thrive in your yard. All plants and trees are locally grown in the U.S. and cared for by experts before they ship to you. So I ordered a lemon tree from Fast Growing Trees a few years ago at this point, and it is still going strong. Every time I walk up to my door, I get hit with the smell of fresh citrus. It's amazing being able to grow my own fruit right in my yard without hiring a landscaper or spending a fortune. Fast Growing Trees saved me easily like 90% of the cost of hiring a landscaper to do this for me, and I didn't have to give up an entire Saturday driving around to nurseries that may or may not have had what I wanted. No messy car, no wasted trips, no guessing. They delivered everything right to my door, and it actually thrived. This season, they have the best deals for your yard, including up to half off tons of plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get 20% off their purchase when using the code Meidas at checkout. That's 20% off their purchase at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Meidas at checkout. MEIDAS. Now is the perfect time to plant. Use Meidas to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Check out the link below or in the show notes and support the show. Nothing feels normal right now, let's be real, and pretending it does is exhausting. And that sense of acceleration is valid. Staying informed matters, but staying overwhelmed does not have to be the cost. That is where IndaCloud fits in. IndaCloud is your fully legal online cannabis dispensary for gummies, premium pre-rolls, exotic flower, and now zero sugar THC sodas. A clean, alcohol-free way to decompress without checking out. Everything available is federally legal hemp THC, lab tested, and shipped discreetly to your door. As the pace of information increases, having a way to reset makes a huge difference. At this point, the news is following me everywhere. Morning alerts, midday updates, late night scrolling, Dueling. There's a whole lot of noise out there. One IndaCloud soda later, the volume comes down. I could still pay attention, stay present, and process what's happening without carrying it all into the rest of my day. And honestly, doing this work every day covering politics in the news cycle, sometimes you just need a moment where the noise turns down a bit. Sleep gummies for shutting down late night headline loops, THC sodas for easing tension without alcohol, premium pre-rolls for intentional decompression, and $70 ounces for staying grounded without added stress. This is how adults stay informed without staying overwhelmed. If you're 21 or older, you can get 35% off the entire month at indacloud.co. That's .co when you use code Meidas at checkout. That's indacloud.co, code Meidas, M-E-I-D-A-S, 35% off all month long, shipped discreetly to your door. And don't forget to complete the quick survey when you order to support this show. Enjoy responsibly, and thanks to IndaCloud for supporting a calmer, more grounded way to stay informed.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you, Bert. That was some really good reads there, Brettster. Real quick, going back to the beginning of the show, Ben, no regrets. It always reminds me of the scene from We're the Millers, where the kid goes, no regrets. And it also reminds me about every time I hear the word apparently, I think of the word like the apparently kid. It's like apparently. Ben.
That brings me back to my days working for talk shows when we had to get on.
We were talking about comps, and there's no comp to this, but you guys brought up the comp. The comp is what we're seeing now. This entire situation, it's just like COVID, right? This is a slow motion of a train wreck with the same conductor at the helm crashing it once again. I mean, that is in itself the perfect comp of what we're seeing now, because it's just crazy. You can't trust any of the information coming out of the Trump regime right now. It is beyond anything in the realm of normalcy what we're witnessing.
That's a great point. I mean, the comp is Trump. What I should have said, Jordy, thanks for the correction, is there's no other comp outside of Donald Trump. And so it's a comp, and in many ways even worse than I think the past Trump comp. But that's one of the reasons that I would always focus my reporting on Donald Trump's loser past, not his successful past, because he never had a successful past. He ran most of his companies into the ground and bankrupted them and screwed the contractors and screwed his creditors and screwed everybody. And he would basically kind of take their money. He would do well and everybody else would get screwed. He would go bankrupt, then he would do it again. He'd go bankrupt, then he would do it again. And he had this miraculous ability, and I don't mean that in a positive way, to continue to find new marks and con people and then develop the con and grow the con while his businesses and all the other things that he touches failed. Even the things that he's tried to build while in office, right? Which by all accounts should do well just based on your proximity to the office, like his social media platform and his meme coins and his Bitcoin, like all that stuff has not been successful. In fact, in most cases, they've been like utter grotesque failures. And so we're seeing that, Jordy, as the comp happen again right here. And again, when you look at his past and his comp, right? The fact that he was Epstein's close friend and that he covers up the Epstein files, and that Mar-a-Lago was used as one of the grounds where Epstein recruited underage girls like Virginia Giuffre, and, Donald Trump being found liable for sexual assault, and the Epstein class being predators on little girls. And if you think about all of that, and then you go, okay, well, who is being targeted a lot by some of the initial strikes and continuing strikes by the United States in the war, right? A little girls' school, right? So as they're covering up the Epstein files where little girls were the victims, they're in Iran killing little girls in elementary schools. We learned about another event on the first day of the war at a gymnasium in another area of Iran where dozens were killed, dozens of children were killed, which again, by all accounts, seems to also be United States weapons who killed them there. BBC did a whole report on that, which I covered. So the comp is you look at these people's pasts. I mean, you look at someone like a Hegseth, right? Hegseth wasn't able to run a nonprofit group successfully. He was pushed out because of his behavior and his failing and all of his personal disgusting things. He was pushed out of that. He's the guy who's leading the Defense Department. Like, he's the guy who's, in everything they talk about, we're going to loiter over Iran and rain down death. And even Donald Trump's post, they're war crimes. Like, what he's saying he's going to do, I might quote, what does he say in that post? He's like, after our nice little trip, we may just blow up the desalination facilities and the electrical grids and all of that and then say bye-bye. Like, you're a sicko. Like, those are actual war crimes. You're going to blow up the desalination facilities, and just kill the people who won't be able to access water? You're going to kill 90 million people? I mean, you're saying that. That's what it means. And Iran goes to its people, you see what they're saying? Right? I mean, when Donald Trump says, I'm going to blow up your electrical grids and all these things, what the U.S. and Israel target Tehran University. They blow up the schools. So then Iran responds and says to all of the American schools in Qatar, all right, we're bombing you next. And then the American schools get evacuated, right? The American military bases in the Middle East are evacuated. Did you know that 13 American military bases in the Middle East have been totally abandoned? Could you imagine if that happened under Biden? 13 abandoned. All Donald Trump had to do was look at the way warfare was being fought in Ukraine and in Russia as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, right? It was clear that in 2025 and 2026, the war of the future was drones, interceptor drones, FPV drone swarms, Iran Shaheeds, strategic ballistic missiles. That's how these things were being fought. And so the U.S. was focused on its interceptors, like its THAAD and Patriot systems. Just think about this. Iran shoots fireworks into the sky, draws out 100 UAE interceptors, each one costing $2 to $5 million. Just say each interceptor is around $5 million, right? $500 million being spent shooting Iranian fireworks, while then Iran works with one of its Shiite militia groups in Iraq, whether it's in the city of Erbil, or they work with Hezbollah, into Israel, or they work with and other Shiite groups, other militia groups, in other locations. Give them the FPV drones and then do drone swarms and start blowing up other assets. And just think about it. If you've compelled the UAE to spend $500 million of interceptors and you drew out that weaponry, that's a win for you as well if you're Iran. The U.S. has depleted 3 to 7 years or maybe 9 years of its interceptor reserves. The U.S. has also went through a huge portion of its Tomahawk missiles at this point. The Israel's chief of staff of the IDF is saying we're on the verge of total collapse right now. Said it public. The IDF chief of staff said our military is on the verge of collapse right now. And Iran's listening to this. No offense to me, okay? And I mean this with respect, as I'm about to insult myself. If I know these things, they know these things, okay? If we're aware of these things, they're aware of these things as well. And it's clearly happening also in plain view, and anybody can see it. As I mentioned before the break, as I was saying, these emolument clause violations. And in case you're just confused, our Constitution has something called the emolument clause, and there's also a bunch of bribery laws as well, which basically says you can't take gifts from foreign entities as quid pro quos. It's against the law. But Donald Trump, using the Supreme Court's ruling of absolute immunity, says all of these things are for national security and in our interest. The plane to Donald Trump, national security. The Golden Ballroom, national security, because Trump says I'm building a bunker underneath, and it's a national security ballroom, right? So that's what he invokes for everything, because he goes, well, I'll just get immunity if I say it's all under my Article 2 nationals, I'm here to defend national security. But in any event, we have an emolument clause violation. We have a clause because, we don't want people to take gifts from foreign nations. Why? Because you can then be compromised. So Donald Trump's taken personal gifts. In the form of investments, right? The UAE invested in World Liberty Financial, and Saudi Arabia's built Trump properties, and Qatar's given Donald Trump jets. And, all these countries have done those things. Why? Because they knew that they were doing pay for play, quid pro quo. That was their goal and objective. So when you pay, the other side's got to play. When you do a quid pro quo, when that you're supposed to give us a security umbrella. So why would Qatar give a $500 million plane? Well, if you're going to give us Patriot and THAAD interceptors and protect us and do all of these things to the tune of billions and billions of dollars, that seems like a good investment for 500. We'll give this guy a stupid plane. He wants a stupid plane. We'll give him a stupid plane. He's supposed to protect us. But then when you don't protect them, who becomes the victims? America, American troops. So one of the things that we're learning right now, and we probably knew this before even having to read about it, the Associated Press reports the United Arab Emirates, supported by Bahrain and Kuwait, is pushing hard for the U.S. president to order a ground invasion of Iran, as officials from many Gulf allies of the United States, including Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the UAE, have conveyed in private conversations they don't want the ongoing military operations to end until there are significant changes in the Iranian leadership or there's a dramatic shift in Iran's behavior, diplomatic officials told the Associated Press. And trust me, that diplomatic official is saying it very diplomatically. You better believe behind the scenes, shit is going down, right? There's no doubt that they are saying, you effer, we gave you all of these things. We can crush you. We'll break your businesses. Your children, we will just, like, I'm telling you, they are obviously saying, you can't leave us after all of this. You're going to leave us? We'll go join Iran then. How about that? You want to do that? We'll join Iran and we'll join Russia. That'll be the alliance. And so they're doing that in response right now. And we'll talk a little bit about Russia soon and what they're doing. But by the way, during a press conference today, and we'll show maybe these clips in a little bit too, Karoline Leavitt's like, I think that actually the Arab nations are going to have to pay for this war. Unless the objective, and it may be this, to really help Russia develop the strongest alliance ever, to really build the Russia-China alliance into the strongest power by, like, if that's the objective, okay, that's what you're doing, because that's the result of all of this, right? Occam's razor. That's the outcome to all of this stuff. But I'll leave it to you to decide ultimately if that's because if that's the intent, they're executing on that plan for sure, Brett.
Yeah, they'd be executing on that perfectly if that's the intent. And hey, it may be, but I think ultimately this is one of the issues with having not even zero credibility, but negative credibility. Nobody takes you seriously. It's the issue with, like Ben said, violating the emoluments clause. It's the reason we have all of these rules, because you get leveraged very quickly. You're able to be pitted against basically your own country's interests. And the issue that we're running into right now is that truly Trump's only two moves right now are basically to cut bait and try to claim some BS victory and get out, or alternatively, his other move is to escalate. And it seems like a lot of these forces right now are pushing him to escalate. It seems like his instincts are to continue to escalate. And obviously that continues to put our troops in harm's way. It continues to risk lives abroad, at home. It continues to roil markets, keep the volatility going. And it's just his total inability to have any credibility has just been so damaging in the propaganda aspect of this war as well, because Donald Trump's just been getting hammered day in and day out by the Iranian regime's propaganda. And the truth is, you want to be able to say, it's like Baghdad Bob or something, and that it's bullshit, and that they're obviously lying and they're making things up to smear the United States and the president. But a lot of these things are just undeniable, the things that they're saying, because Donald Trump is the Baghdad Bob in this situation. Karoline Leavitt is the Baghdad Bob in this situation. And you don't have to rely on MeidasTouch on us to say that. There was even one of the senior editors of the Wall Street Journal making that exact point last week. I believe we read that to you. But that's why you get responses from Iran that look like this. Karoline Leavitt today, and we may play these clips shortly. We'll see how Ben's feeling. But Karoline Leavitt said earlier, that we're on this 4 to 6 week estimated timeline. And we've always been on that timeline. Remember, in the beginning, Donald Trump was like, it's going to take a few days, and then it gradually got longer and longer and longer. Karoline Leavitt said, we're on day 30 today. So you do the math on how much longer the Pentagon needs to fully achieve its objectives. First off, we still don't really know the objectives. The objectives are a constantly shifting space. You are constantly moving the goalposts here on a whim and you're not even telling. Rubio says something different than Bessent, says something different than Trump. And here you have that Iranian propaganda, the Islamic Republic of Iran broadcasting. They said, mocking Karoline Leavitt, saying, so the war will probably last another 10 years. Sorry, not war, operation. They're mocking Trump because he has no credibility here. Because Trump goes, like the other day, right? We're at a war. Oh, I shouldn't say war. They don't like when I say war. It's an operation. If I say war, I got to get approval for it because that would be unconstitutional. They say this stuff out loud. We see this comment from Mohammed Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Parliament, who recently posted this. This is about the threats that we're seeing from the Trump administration. And Ghalibaf said Iran's enemies pass off their wishes as, quote, news, while simultaneously threatening our nation. They are dead wrong. If they strike once, they'll get hit several times back. The people of Iran, God willing, under the guidance of the supreme leader of the revolution, will make the enemy regret its actions and attain their rightful rights. So you could see here how Trump's statements, how Trump's escalations, how Trump's threats that we're going to commit war crimes against you. This is only emboldening them. And it's also allowing these people who are by no means good people, the Speaker of Iranian Parliament, to have kind of a moral upper hand here in the war as they speak to their people. And they say, you think we're bad? Donald Trump wants to starve you. Donald Trump wants you to not have water. Donald Trump is blowing up your buildings and blowing up your schools. It continues to make these threats. It's putting us on a really bad path right now. And it's making the United States really just seem completely rudderless, looking like we have no idea what the hell we're doing. And I think it's kind of because we are right now and we don't know what the hell we're doing.
It really feels like Trump's only move is escalation. Like that. I don't want it to be. I'm not hoping that's the case. In fact, I hope this resolves itself in the best way that it can. But it really seems like he has backed himself into a corner. And the only way for him to, I don't know, come out of this, quote unquote, a winner in his mind is to escalate and in his terms, annihilate. Like that. That's the framework of these MAGAs, especially Trump and the Trump regime. That's how he thinks he could win. And it shouldn't even be viewed in those terms. For me, it's the smugness of everyone in the Trump regime. Vance, Trump himself, Karoline Leavitt, in giving their responses to the press. Like, Brett, can you please bring up that Karoline Leavitt, the image that we showed before? I just want to read it one more time for our audio listeners. And basically the gist of that, as Brett pulls that up, is the reporters ask her, they said, hey, how much longer? Right? How much longer? And she responds with something to the effect of, we're on day 30. We said 4 to 6 weeks.
You could describe it. I got rid of it at this point.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But that was essentially the gist of that. We're on day 30, 4 to 6 weeks. You do the math. Like that was her response to the reporter. I think it's a pretty legitimate question, right? Considering the fact that Donald Trump and folks in his cabinet have claimed that we've already won the war. So, okay, how much longer? Sounds like she gave a definitive declaration of a time frame, in my opinion. 4 to 6 weeks. We're on day 30. You do the math, reporter. Okay. 7 times 6, 42. We have 12 more days then. And every single reporter should be holding her feet to the fire when we're not out of there in 12 days. I know it sounds arbitrary or whatnot, but to me, it's that serious. It's this constant smugness from everyone involved in Trump's circle when the American people want answers, especially answers to as serious as how much longer is this war going to go on? How many more troops are going to have to die? Her response, day 30, 4 to 6 weeks. You do the math. It makes me want to scream.
That's just where I said there's no comp. And Jordy, you corrected me and said the comp is kind of Donald Trump with those deranged press conferences during COVID. By Easter, we'll bend the curve. The cases are going away like a miracle. Inject yourself with this and do that. And, and all of those things. But we're used to in the past, even if we disagreed with the president, a president holding a speech with actual smart people, and conveying the information and the data, that even if there was some spin in there, we would generally try to, believe, and that it was also usually, with other presidents, filled with compassion and actual patriotism and like leveling with the American people. Not always, let me be very clear. But this is some next level, like maniac dictator behavior right here, where the thing that is also very scary about this is that because Trump lies about everything and creates this information, I wouldn't even say decay, but just the destruction of information, that the American people don't fully know what's coming. And like, when you see it the way we see it, and you know where this is heading, and you know what 2026 looks like, 2027 looks like, and perhaps even most frightening beyond what this is shaping up to be, right? And we'll talk a little bit about Russia planting its flag even firmer in Cuba. And I think about the Cuba Missile Crisis and what a big deal that was when I grew up, right? And I mean, I didn't grow up during the Cuba Missile Crisis, but as my parents taught me about it, and I would see movies about it, and just the other day, yesterday on Sunday, the Russia ships like, we're going through your blockade, and Trump's like, come on through. After him and Putin, after him and Rubio and everyone were like, nobody gets through. And Putin's like, yeah, I'm going to get through right there, and we're going to deliver our supplies to Cuba. And then Trump's like, okay, you can come in. And then the press is like, so can Mexico come in, and can Colombia and other countries, ones that were actually allied with the United States, can they help Cuba out? No, we're not going to let them happen. So just Putin. On a case-by-case basis. So you're going to release the sanctions against Russia, invite the Russian Duma to the Capitol and the State Department, while Russia supplies its weapons and information to Iran to help defeat the United States in the war. Then you're going to let their ship just go right through the blockade and then defeat the whole purpose of you doing it, which will, if anything, I mean, if you're saying you want regime change in Cuba or whatever the hell you're going to do, you think that makes sense to then allow Russia to work with Cuba? So is what you actually want in Cuba to basically be all of the things we were worried about in the Cuban Missile Crisis that was viewed as, a positive that the U.S. stood up to Russia back then? You're just going to let them like take it over? And which, don't get me wrong, we already know that Cuba is funded by Russia and all of the support, but like, you create this humanitarian crisis, which is horrible. You make the people suffer in Cuba, which is a crime against humanity, which I'm not supportive at all about anything in the way this Trump regime has treated Cuba. I think it's disgusting. But then at the end, you talk tough, and then Russia just goes, we're coming in. We're going to be the heroes. We're going to be the one to save them. Okay, come on in. You can do that. What the hell is that? And it just makes you look utterly pathetic. You add all this stuff up. We'll talk about it more after the break, but it's like, can anybody with moral clarity just explain what the hell is going on? We can. We're trying. We'll be right back after our last quick break of the show. A quick reminder, hit subscribe, help us get to 7 million subscribers. Subscribe to Scott McFarlane's YouTube channel, at Scott McFarlane News. Subscribe there. Also, make sure you subscribe to the MeidasTouch on audio podcast. Search MeidasTouch wherever you get your audio podcast. Leave a 5-star review there. We'll be right back after our last quick break of the show.
You ever walk out of a doctor's appointment feeling like you learned absolutely nothing? Like they just say you're fine, maybe tell you to drink some water, and that's it. No real data, no real plan. That's honestly why I'm fascinated by what Superpower is doing. Instead of guessing about your health, they actually give you information that you need to understand your body. Superpower sends a licensed professional to your home, or you could visit a nearby lab, and it's one simple test that measures over 100 biomarkers. That's way more than you normally get. Then everything shows up in their app, breaking down things like your heart health, liver, thyroid, hormones, metabolism, vitamin and mineral levels, and even environmental toxins. And for me, the biggest thing is finally having a real plan, not guessing about supplements, diet, or sleep, or what you should actually be doing for your health. Superpower gives personalized recommendations, lifestyle guidance, and even tracks your true biological age so you can see how your health changes over time. It's not just a one-time snapshot either. Every test builds on the last one, so you could actually track progress year after year. Plus, they have an on-demand clinician team to answer questions, which is huge. And here's the wild part. part, Superpower used to cost $499, but right now it's just $199 for the full experience. Make this the year you stop guessing about your health with Superpower. Not only did Superpower reduce their price to just $199, but for a limited time, our listeners get an additional $20 off with code Meidas. Head to superpower.com and use code Meidas at checkout for $20 off your membership. That's MEIDAS. After you sign up, they'll ask how you heard about them, so make sure to mention this podcast to support the show.
A new season is always a great time to reset, level up, and take better care of yourself. And that absolutely includes your hair. If you're dealing with thinning, shedding, or just wanting fuller, healthier hair, the iRestore Elite is one of the easiest routine upgrades you can make. And with their spring savings happening right now, it's truly the best time to try it. It's an at-home device that uses 300 lasers and 200 LEDs to deliver targeted light therapy to your scalp, and it's clinically proven to help regrow hair. And the best part is how effortless it is. You just pop it on a few times a week while doing literally anything else. Watching TV, journaling, scrolling, whatever your daily routine looks like. If you want to go all in on your hair transformation, you can also pair the Elite with the Revive Plus Max Growth Kit or their Biotin gummies for extra support from the inside out. So whether you're treating yourself to a fresh start or just looking to elevate your routine, the iRestore Elite is the kind of upgrade that makes every day feel like a good hair day. In a 4-month double-blind clinical study, nearly all participants saw increased hair growth with iRestore's laser plus LED technology. And the best part about iRestore, they offer a 12-month money-back guarantee, so you can try it without risk. Restocking fees applies. If you've been waiting for the right time to upgrade your hair routine, the spring savings is it. iRestore is offering big savings right now with code TRUTH at iRestore.com. You'll get an exclusive discount on the iRestore Elite. That's code TRUTH at iRestore.com. Please support our show and tell them that MeidasTouch sent you. Give your hair the upgrade it's been waiting for. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links. Use the codes. If there's that exit survey, let them know we sent you. As a reminder, please subscribe to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel on our way to 7 million. And also Scott McFarlane's YouTube channel. Benji, we need to change what the Meidas Mighty say when they go over to Scott's, though, because you told the audience to say, what did you, hi from Ben? What was the message?
Ben says hi.
Ben says hi. It's a little... It's a little freaky. Maybe Ben says, "What's up?"
Yeah. Okay.
So go subscribe to Scott McFarlane.
I don't know if that's an improvement, but just say hey from the hey from Meidas.
Hey from MeidasTouch.
Great.
Appreciate you guys. Let me give a shout out to Katie Fang. Also, Katie Fang just passed 550,000.
Damn.
Katie is a rock star.
Hey, Katie Fang is crushing it, and she also just came out with her a lot of fun developments of Katie Fang world. I'll go through them quick. The top two. Her new podcast, Sidebar with Katie Fang, now available on all podcast platforms. Be sure to check that out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, you name it, it is there. Go check it out. Sidebar with Katie Fang. Sidebar is one word. Check it out. Also, Katie Fang doing a weekly live show now every Tuesday. So you know how Ben does his live, Ben live on breaking news now every Tuesday. What time do you do that, Ben? You do it at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. So at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, immediately following that on Katie Fang's channel, Katie Fang goes live every Tuesday now. So that's if you're listening to this podcast, that's today. If you're watching live on YouTube, it's tomorrow, Tuesday. But be sure to check out Katie Fang live. She's such a freaking rock star, man.
Here's what President Zelensky posted on his social media. Here's what he's saying publicly. He goes, look, when I travel outside of Ukraine, I get daily intelligence updates online. This morning, I was briefed that U.S. military facilities in the Middle East and the Gulf region were photographed by Russian satellites in the interest of Iran. On March 24th, they imaged the U.S.-UK joint military facility on Diego Garcia. They also captured pictures of Kuwait International Airport, the infrastructure at the Greater Bergen Oil Airfield. On March 25th, they took pictures of the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, the Sheba Oil and Gas Field in Saudi Arabia, an air base in Qatar and Turkey, all imaged on March 26th. There are no Ukrainian facilities on this list, but who is helping whom when sanctions are lifted from an aggressor that earns daily revenue and provides intelligence for strikes against American, Middle East, UK, and UK bases, and so on. Listen to this line by Zelensky. When surveillance is carried out over facilities in Ukraine, we always understand that they must be protected, since plans are in motion to destroy them. Energy and water infrastructure, military facilities, and so on. Everyone knows that repeated reconnaissance indicates preparations for strikes. How can sanctions be eased if this is what the Russians are doing? There must be pressure on the aggressor, and lifting sanctions is certainly not pressure. It looks strange. Sanctions are being lifted while the aggressor is providing intelligence to strike facilities, including those of the countries that are discussing or have already lifted sanctions. He uses that word particularly, that looks strange. And what he's saying is, in my opinion, like that looks like you're working to hurt your own military. It's the only logical explanation when you lift the sanctions and reward the party that is working with the country you're in war against. You're literally like, could you imagine in World War II if you had FDR or Truman go, you know what? We're going to lift some sanctions on Germany. How can we help Germany make more money in World War II, right? We're going to help Hitler and Mussolini. We're going to really work with them right now because we're doing jujitsu on them, right? That's what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says. That's why Zelensky says it looks strange. Like, what the hell are you doing? Zelensky also took a tour. Or he met in Kuwait. He met in United Arab Emirates, in Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, and did deals with all of them to provide Ukrainian interceptor drones, Ukrainian drones, other technologies. And the message being sent, whether it's directly or indirectly, is that, think about it, the American security umbrella ain't working. The Ukrainian security umbrella is needed, right? That's the message that's being sent. And while all of that's taking place, as I mentioned before the break, you had Russian Duma members, photographs of them with MAGA Republican Congress members during the war in Iran where Russia's helping Iran. You have MAGA Republican Congress members and MAGA State Department officials having the Russian Duma, sanctioned Russian Duma members over to the United States, greeting them like heroes, while Donald Trump still attacks Zelensky and still attacks Ukraine and still takes Russia's side throughout all of this. Think about that. We've done a good job not showing clips on this one because I don't want to hear Donald Trump's voice, frankly, on this episode. But let's hear just for a second, bear with me. This is the photo for those on audio. It's of MAGA Republican Congress members with the top Russian Duma members. They taking photos. They're posting it. They're bragging about it. And they're like, well, we're doing peace. Russia's trying to kill America. What are you talking about? You're doing peace. Are you the dumbest people ever? What are you doing? You know, if that's truly what you think is happening, that you're doing peace talks, then you're the dumbest people ever. Unless the explanation is that you want to actually help Russia destroy American military bases with Iran and kill Americans. Because
it's really batshit. And Ben, I don't even think this part got enough attention. That Anna Paulina Luna, who is in there, she's a congresswoman. Not only did they meet, but Anna Paulina Luna gave these sanctioned Russian officials a tour of the United States Capitol the other day. Like,
I personally gave them the tour, a VIP tour.
A VIP tour that she personally gave them through the United States Capitol. Speaking about, like, you know, in the past, you had to use a Trojan horse to get the enemies in the building. Here you got Republican members of Congress just going, walk right in. It's all yours. Sanctioned Russian members, sanctioned Russian officials. It's like treasonous, honestly. That's my, you know, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why with all this, you know how like Iran has their cluster munitions, right? With Trump's cluster munitions of disinformation and distraction, and there's so much news everywhere. It's like they invite. What more do you need me to say? Russia, Russia, Russia. Yeah, I know when Trump says that, people are like afraid. Ooh, we cover that, he's going to sue us because Russia, Russia. They invited the Russians over. They let the Russians through their so-called blockade. They removed the sanctions against the Russians. They know that the Russians are giving surveillance to Iran to strike American military bases so successfully they're able to target the crown jewel of our Air Force and our Stratotankers and all of these things. And Donald Trump still takes Putin's side over Zelensky with all of this. And it's like, it's as simple as that. Just that's what's happening. I'm not sharing with you my opinion. I'm just telling you the facts of what's actually happening. Karoline Leavitt held a press conference today, and one of the members of the press asked her, and they said, hey, so the president insists he's negotiating with Iran and that they've agreed to his 15 points. They disagree with it. So what do you say when Iran's people say that this is not happening at all? What's your response, Karoline? Here, play this clip.
But just to follow up, because Americans are sort of seeing these conflicting messages between the United States and Iran. I know the president insists that negotiations are underway. As you just mentioned, he's also said that Iran has agreed to most of the 15 points. We just heard from Iran again. They're saying no negotiations are taking place. They're calling the proposal excessive, unrealistic. So how do you square that? How do you explain that discrepancy between the two?
I think the American people are smart enough not to take the word of a terrorist regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years at their word. And I hope the journalists in this room are wise enough not to take an Iranian regime that has repeatedly lied about our country, about our values, about everyone in this room, frankly, for nearly 5 decades. So I think the American public are smart enough to understand that.
And just to follow up on this.
Who controls the Strait of Hormuz right now? Does Iran continue to shoot ballistic missiles, Shahid drones, drone swarms at its Arab nation neighbors where there are American military interests in response to the United States and Israel strikes in Iran, and Iran issues evacuation orders to the areas that it's going to strike, then strikes those areas with a degree of frequency? Is Iran doing that while you claim their military has been totally obliterated? Is their parliament meeting on a regular basis? Are these pro-democracy protesters out on the street demanding regime change in Iran like you promised was going to take place in the first 48 hours? And that was beginning to happen in January until you betrayed everybody, all the protesters, and threw them under the bus and didn't even have assets in the areas and told them to protest, then got a lot of them killed. I can observe what's happening out there. Has our equipment been destroyed in many of these military bases? Every night do I see Iran continuing to rain ballistic missiles, cluster munitions into Iran? Have the Houthis joined the war right now? I can evaluate what's actually happening. And I understand in a war, there's propaganda here and there's propaganda there, but I can tell you what's actually happening on the ground.
And talk about the pot calling the kettle black, right? It's like,
well, look, I've seen they've lied so many times. The Trump regime has consistently, their word is zero. And now you have the foreign minister of Oman, who was the handpicked mediator by the U.S., working with Iran to help them build their toll plan in order to control the Strait of Hormuz. That's one of the things that's happening. So then she's also asked, who's paying for the cost of this war, Karoline? Will the Arab countries step up? The Arab countries who have stepped up to pay for America's security umbrella, only for America to go to war with Israel against Iran without consulting the Arab nations. Who's going to pay for this war, Donald? Here, play this clip.
Jonathan.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions regarding the financial costs of the war. Back during the Persian Gulf War, 1990, 1991, Arab countries paid for the vast majority of the cost of the war. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. Who's paying for the cost of this war? Will those Arab countries step up to do just that?
Well, I think it's something the president would be quite interested in calling them to do. I won't get ahead of him on that, but certainly it's an idea that I know that he has and something that I think you'll hear more from him on.
And then secondly,
right after Mexico pays for the wall, the Arab countries are going to pay for Trump and Israel's war. That's what's going to happen. Imagine just having the gall to start a war without even consulting anybody, cause damage and terror to countries. Like let's be real, they're paying the price for this war right now. Like their countries are getting bombed for helping the United States. And then demanding or asking or hoping that they pay your bills. It's like the whole thing is so perverse.
They have no shame.
Jordy is Trump. That's Trump's past, Jordy.
Exactly. They have no shame. They have no shame. They are kidding themselves, and they are incredibly smug every step of the way. It is absolutely pathetic. It is just that is just the baseline word they are pathetic individuals, all of them. And it just so happens that these specific pathetic individuals are the top leaders, quote unquote leaders in our government at this time, and they are bringing all of us collectively down with them. And I just want to pull my friggin' hair out watching all of this. I'm audibly screaming throughout this episode because that's the emotion that's coming out of me right now, and it has been all day.
One more clip then, Jordy. Why was the administration okay with sending Russia? Why was the administration okay with Russia sending its oil to Cuba and not other nations, right? You said that you were embargoing Cuba. There was an executive order that says anybody who dare bring oil into Cuba will face the wrath of the United States. You and Rubio have said over and over again, the goal is to basically starve Cuba, which in my view is a crime against humanity as well. But now you let Russia in. What's the end game of this? Like, why, if you were going to let countries in, why not let allies of the United States in and deliver it in order to, maybe encourage better relations with Cuba, even though I think they realize that you're the one starving them, but why not we give aid or why not allow Mexico to give aid or Colombia like they tried to when you stopped them from doing it? Play the clip.
Right now.
We got it. If we don't got it, we don't need it.
Right now. I'll take a few more. Solon.
Thank you. You listed the described humanitarian reasons for allowing that oil tanker to reach Cuba. Just to clarify, why was the administration okay with Russia sending that oil to Cuba and not other nations?
Look, this was a decision. It'll continue to be made on a case-by-case basis for humanitarian reasons or otherwise, but there's been no firm change in our sanctions policy.
President Sheinbaum of Mexico also said that Mexico is exploring different ways to restart some of those shipments to Cuba. Is the administration okay with that at this time?
Again, no change in our sanction policy. We still reserve the right to seize vessels if it's legally applicable that are headed towards Cuba and that violate the United States sanction policy. But of course, the president and the administration also reserve the right to waive those seizures on a case-by-case basis.
And to clarify, just any more Russian oil tankers going to be allowed to reach Cuba at this time? I know you say case-by-case, but for the case of Russia, is it pretty much green light right now?
No, that's not what I said. It's a case-by-case basis. Sure.
A vicious lie. I mean, just when you watch that, if you don't cringe, if that doesn't make you angry, go, what the hell is this? Well, then I guess you're in the 33% who support Donald Trump. I mean, his approval dropped in the latest UMass Amherst YouGov poll to 33%. I mean, I think it will be in the 20s soon. Net negative 25 on immigration, net negative 31 on jobs, negative 36 on tariffs, negative 47 on inflation, and this number is going to continue to go lower. It'll be in the 20s soon. But how you watch that and go, oh, that makes sense to me. All of the lies, all of the attack on allies, all of the trade wars against the world, all of the gutting of the government and the State Department, all of that, right, created the perfect foundation, if you will, and it's screwed up to say it this way, that when he instigated this disastrous war in Iran for it just all to break, the ticking time bomb, like you couldn't have set in motion a more catastrophic way to approach everything that's been built in America. And the part that is tough for me in the moment when I report on what's happening day to day, even when things are grim and horrible and tragic, it's, I don't want to say it's easy, but like, you're in the game, you're focused, right? You're just doing it. Muscle memory takes over and you're reporting on what's happening. The difficult part is when you study it the way we all do and you see what's coming in the future, the way I was warning about this then in 20, and then when people would be like, oh, you're being hyperbolic, that's not going to happen. Look at the headline, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, really after all of these things happening. And again, not because I'm a great predictor, because I'm just listening and watching and observing what's happening. Not because there's some Nostradamus future predictions.
What do you mean all hell breaks loose, Ben? Are you watching the news? Are you watching what's going on? Hell is breaking loose every.
If you don't think this is hell breaking loose, then there's no terminology for that in general. Like then there isn't, because this is the depths of depravity, of anti-American, this whole thing is taking America down. And I'm not trying to scare people. It's just what is happening every single day. 2 points, Brett and Jordy, then I'll throw it to you. Shout out No Kings protest, over 8 million. I think the number was closer to 9 million. MeidasTouch distributed footage again. The whole day we did coverage. It's always been a priority of us to do that. Then at the beginning, I talked about Congress abandoning the ship, right? While all of this is going, with everything I'm talking about happening, MAGA Republicans gavelled out. They're on a 2-week vacation right now. It's not some both sides, everybody left. Okay. Democrats have tried to fund TSA over and over and over again, 9 times. Okay. Finally, the Senate agreed. And then the House said, nope, we're going to block that. So Donald Trump did an unlawful executive order funding the TSA. No one's really going to challenge that it's unlawful, because we want the TSA to be funded, but it's not a lawful order. You can't do it by executive order. But we all want the TSA to be funded. So it's like, all right, just let the TSA be funded, which Trump should have done from the outset. But regardless, it's like the Republicans did it. I'm not saying that because we don't like the Republicans. No, they did it. They want ICE to be able to wear masks and torture people and not do warrants. And Democrats are like, you've got your money, ICE. We don't need to give you more. We do want to fund TSA and FEMA and all the other things. And the Republicans are like, nope, unless you let us do the ICE torture part, then we're not going to do it. And could we add just bullying transgender people into this? And it's like, what does that have to do with anything? Just let's bully transgender people. Let's throw that in there. And it's like, okay, y'all are a bunch of morons and you're evil and you're just, and you're causing this. Like, it's so obvious. So I wanted to point it out at the end of the episode.
Yeah, well said. And I just want to give a shout out to the No Kings folks as well. Everybody who, whether you were on the ground, in your city, in your town, whether you were watching our stream at home, whether you were in bed retweeting content or reposting content and sharing content, whatever your role was, I want to thank you for being out there. I do think those No Kings rallies are so important. And I think they're also crucial because they are a check on this Trump regime's unhinged propaganda, because they rely on their lies and media outlets and their influencers to regurgitate their lies. One of their biggest lies are that they are this big movement that is unstoppable and that there's nobody out there who challenges this. Everybody loves it. You had Trump, I won't play the clip, but the other day on the plane, Trump called all Democrats terrorists. Like, how screwed up, how offensive is that? Do you remember the news cycle? I'm sure you do, when Hillary Clinton referred to a small portion of Trump voters as a basket of deplorables. And that was like every day. They still talk about it to this day. Donald Trump, and she was right, by the way.
Hillary was right.
She understated it. She should have and could have went further. Donald Trump calls Democrats terrorists, doesn't even make like a headline. Just think about that. But when you have people out there, when you have patriotic people who love this country, people who love their families, getting out, taking the streets, peacefully protesting, delivering rousing, inspiring speeches, speaking to all of the things that a majority of Americans care about, it neutralizes all of that line of attack from the Trump regime. And it also shows that there are more of us than there are of them. And it shows a strength in numbers. And let's be real, we're heading towards a midterm year. And I think it acts to excite people and say, listen, They're going to try to throw whatever they can at us this time. We know that. But we have all of these people behind us who are going to do everything that we can to ensure that that does not happen. I think that's powerful. And I love the images. And Jordy, speaking of the images, I have a photo of you here as well. I got a flash for our
Let's go.
watchers.
Shout out Pittsburgh, man. Shout out Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had an unbelievable turnout. I mean, I was expecting it, but like when you're actually there and in person, you just see everyone. And to be
hold on, a question. Were you trying to look exactly like the guy with a sign meme? You know, you guys know that meme because you look like I now I could write anything on your sign. You've given me a tool now, and
it's possible. Dangerous. But dude, I'm serious. Like I'm not just saying this. The energy there was so incredible. And to your point exactly, Brett, it was like this whole mentality of strength in numbers to its core, to like the very essence of it. Because I saw signs about everything. I saw signs around the Epstein files, releasing the Epstein files, to affordability, to getting ICE the heck out of power. It was really incredible to see, and what were the motivating factors for people to get down there. And it was all, again, around this central ethos of pro-democracy, bringing people together, bringing the energy that we're going to need every step of the way to take back our country in a peaceful yet energized way. So it was shout out everyone at the No Kings in Pittsburgh. Shout out to everyone at No Kings across the country or across the world. Y'all are the greatest. Like no ends if buts about it. Like it was awesome.
Want to thank everybody so much for watching. We covered a lot on this episode. I hope you appreciate the comprehensive nature of these updates. We do spend a lot of time to make sure that you leave this episode knowing everything that's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly. And unfortunately, right now in this current moment, it's ugly, but we'll persevere. We'll get out of it. Democracy will prevail. We, the people, will hold firm. You saw that at No Kings. You'll see it at the next No Kings. But frankly, you see it every day with all of you and your simple acts of resistance, standing up to this regime, working together, helping MeidasTouch Network grow. We're so damn grateful for you all. Hit subscribe here. Subscribe to Katie Fang's YouTube channel. Subscribe to Scott McFarland's YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Legal AF YouTube channel. Subscribe to Tennessee Brando's YouTube channel. Subscribe to Adam Mockler's YouTube channel.
I'll say this. I'll make it easy for everybody. If you go to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel and go to the bottom of our channel page, there's a section that says more for MeidasTouch, and all of the people, all of the channels in our universe are there. And you could just go boom, 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 boom. The boom is you hitting subscribe very quickly.
Let me just say it so he doesn't get upset. Subscribe to Aaron Parnas's YouTube channel.
I was going to do every.
I didn't want to leave anyone out, hurt anyone's feelings, Ben.
Yeah, definitely subscribe to Aaron Parnas's YouTube channel.
Aaron Parnas.
Actually, because Jordy said to do Aaron Parnas's first, and then
there you go.
Aaron, don't get mad at us. I don't need a mean, breaking news TikTok. The MeidasTouch has ignored me. I don't need that.
It's a major breaking news.
I don't need that smoke, dude.
And congratulations to Parnas. He posted it publicly, so we can congratulate him.
Congratulations to Aaron. Aaron had a baby girl, for those wondering, and but he hasn't skipped a beat on the reports. It's like in the hospital with the hairnet, like breaking news. Like, dude, you could take off, man. I promise.
Thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate you. Stay in the fight. We've got this. Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty. Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.